Hello, everyone. Welcome to another and last Weather Wednesday. I'm glad to have you guys with us today as we look back at 2020, some significant weather events, looking forward at what the forecast is, and wishing you a very festive holiday season. So let's take a look at some significant weather events that we have covered while we have done Weather Wednesday over this last year. Here I have some pictures to help remind us of some significant weather events. It has been a busy hurricane season. If you want more details, refer to my last Weather Wednesday where we talked a little bit more in depth about the significance of this hurricane season compared to years previous. You can see this chart behind me. There have been many hurricanes that have developed in the Atlantic Ocean. In fact, there were more named storms this year than ever before in history. There's also several other events that happened because of the hurricane season. One is that Central America experienced two severe hurricanes that hit within 15 miles of each other. That has never happened before. Central America definitely got hit by all of the wind and rain, but we cannot forget other locations that have also experienced severe flooding because of these hurricanes. This year we covered Japan, China, Vietnam, and even the Philippines and getting hit with a couple of very strong typhoons. There has been a lot of flooding that has occurred because of increased amounts of moisture in the air, increased amounts of humidity. So a lot of significant weather events, a lot of things that we need to keep an eye on as these countries recover. One thing that I love about Science on a Sphere is that it gives us the chance to look at weather and weather events around the world and to see that we aren't the only ones here, that we share this world with many people around the world. And while we may be experiencing nice weather or good weather, calm weather, wherever you live, other people on the other side of the world might be experiencing some severe weather difficulties and hardships. So keep those people in mind. And also, as you finish out this year, see how you can help other people around the world financially or with material things. See how you guys can help other people around the world. 'Tis the season to give, and so I hope that you guys pay attention to the challenges that people have faced because of weather difficulties. So another significant weather event have been the fires that have hit the West Coast. We talked about that quite a bit this late summer and fall. The wildfires in the West. These were burned the most acreage of any time in the United States history. But we cannot forget that of Australia. Australia earlier this year, early in 2020, late 2019, also experienced their worst wildfire season as well. And we talked about that a little bit here on our Weather Wednesdays. So as Australia goes into their summer, when we go into our winter, they go into their summer. As Australia goes into their summer and progresses into their late summer, they're going to have to keep an eye on these wildfires that might come up in Australia and stay on top of those. Here is a little graphic that I want to point out. This was a graphic that came out in early 2020 talking about Australia's fires here. And you can see this is millions of acres. So Australian fires, 12 million acres, the most wildfire damage suffered by a particular country. Now this year, since this was early 2020, this year, the United States would be right here. So the 2020 wildfires burned over 8 million acres here in the United States. And so that would rank second to the most acreage damaged from wildfires. So very significant extremes going on in weather around the world. And then lastly, who can forget the term derecho? We talked about derecho a couple times here on Weather Wednesday this year because of a derecho that happened in the Midwest, produced some significant wind damage. There's still some amazing videos out there on YouTube talking about that Midwest derecho event that happened. I believe it was, I think it was early August that happened. And then in June, here in Colorado, we also experienced a derecho event that came through and knocked down a limb, a pretty large branch in our yard. But derecho events, we learned what those were this year in Weather Wednesdays, and it caused some damage as it went through the Midwest. I want to wish everybody, wasn't able to get into Science on a Sphere last week, but I want to wish everybody a happy meteorological winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. Meteorological winter is where it creates kind of a general or a very easily defined winter season, which represents the month of December, January, and February. So we call that meteorological because on average, those 3 months are the coldest months of the year. And so we assign those as the winter months. Technically, winter doesn't start until December 21. Now that's coming soon. And what's going to happen on December 21 is that the sun is going to be at its most southern point. And if you recall in times past, I have shown you the reflection of the sun over the ocean. And I want to do that one more time here using our GOES 16 and 17 satellites here. You can see that bright spot. And as I line this up and orient myself, there's South America there. So you can see the bright spot traveling across the ocean there. And let me just back up right about there. You see that? So the bright spot right here and over here. Now, the reason there's two bright spots is because we're looking at a combination of two satellites data. So it goes 16 and 17. And that bright reflection is the exact spot of where the sun is reflecting off the ocean water there. And so this is the southern, in just a little bit, that will be the southernmost point that the sun will reach. Again, on December 21st, that is the astronomical beginning of winter. And there's also going to be something else going on in the night sky. And I believe, looking to my producer here too, wanted to get this correct. I believe some planets are going to be lining up on December 21. They nicknamed this the Christmas star. The last time that this has happened so significantly was, I believe, 800 years ago. So kind of an interesting thing going on astronomically in the night sky is to look at see those planets lining up, especially around Christmas time, how special this time of year. So let's take a look at forecasts, shall we? Let's take a look at what is going on around the world. First off, let's take a look at current weather conditions. Actually, I don't want the colorized one, although that is fancy and all. I want just the regular clouds here. Let's take a look at what's going on around the world. Now, this is a month worth of data here. Let's go fast forward to more recently so we can see what has been happening and what's going on. The things I noticed, I don't know about you guys, but do you notice a big system off the East Coast as I back that up? That produced some good moisture along the East Coast there. And as it went off land, there was one right before it too that almost underwent what's called bombogenesis, where it really decreases in pressure in 24 hours. This one right here, you can see this guy turn into that as well. There's 1, 2 right there. Time of year, this is a time of year where you might expect what's called a nor'easter hitting the northeast. That's where the weather really wraps around and causes winds to come in from the northeast. So some rain events that happened on the East Coast there. And as we progress to right now, what I'm noticing just a little bit here, what I'm noticing is a system dropping down over the lakes. Not a whole lot of moisture behind it, but probably bringing some cool temperatures to the northeast right here. Following right behind it is a high pressure system. You can see that ridge going on right there. Following that is a high pressure system that we're experiencing here in the Midwest. That high pressure system is causing some nice weather that will push across the United States over the next couple days. But let's take a look at what the forecast is going to be. First, we're going to take a look at the wind streamers behind me. This wind stream model looks at the jet stream. So if you recall, this is kind of like the highway of weather, of where the cloud systems and pressure systems go. Here is that high pressure system that I noticed in the cloud formation there, and that dip right there of that system that came down over the lakes. As I fast forward, that high pressure is going to roll across the United States. And then what we see here is we see a scoop in the jet stream that's going to bring some moisture up and across the mid and southern parts of the United States. So anytime you get the jet stream dipping down, it's going to pull in the moisture from the Gulf of California there and get a little bit of a ridge over the northwest. But that's just going to bring some systems straight in from the west coast, from the Pacific Ocean. It's going to bring some systems straight in, and that might produce some rainy weather up and down the west coast there. The west coast always needs a good amount of moisture in the winter. That's just good. It's a good climate for rain, and so it needs that there on the west coast. And then as we bring up our red and green model, do you guys remember what this one is? This looks at pressure. These are the pressure lines around the world. And here we can see over the next several days, let's take a look at some pressure maps right here. This guy right here, you can see a dip right there. That's going to make its way across. That's going to bring some cloudy weather over the Midwest and Central. You can see that these low pressure systems kind of develop on their own over time here. You can see one developing right about here. So once in a while, these low pressure systems develop. And as I look at the forecast for Colorado and the Midwest, looks like we might have a chance of snow on the 12th and 13th. And that would be this system dropping down right here. As that comes in, it might cause some moisture developing over the central part of the United States. And then just looking at the west coast, there is that river of moisture coming in from the Pacific Ocean there. And as we take a look at the rest of the world, well, I like to get back to our clouds here. Let's just see what's going on and take a look at the rest of the world. Let's take a look at Europe here. Europe right here is getting nice, those low pressure systems that hit the northeast part of the United States and New England, those make its way up to the north part of the Atlantic and then come over and hit Europe. And so we can see that those couple systems that we talked about just earlier, this low pressure and this low pressure, as they make their way across, they're going to come over to northern Europe and drop some moisture there. So Europe will see some good snow in the northern part, and it's going to stay nice in the Mediterranean, it looks like. A little bit of a ridge coming off the Sahara Desert there, a ridge of high pressure, keeping those clouds to the north. And then let's take a look at the southern hemisphere. This is always fun to see because the clouds or low pressure systems, they spin to the right. So low pressure systems spin left in the northern hemisphere, and in the southern hemisphere, low pressure systems spin right. What I notice is a little cyclone going on in the Indian Ocean there. It's being torn apart by this low pressure system down here. So that's being kind of ripped apart a little bit. So that's going to die out. We got some nice, good moisture coming in the northern part of Australia. That's always good to see. It helps with that fire danger that I mentioned earlier. So worldwide, things are going on as normal. You got your different climates. It's always interesting to study what the weather is like in different areas. I encourage you guys to go and explore weather. We have shared with you several websites that allow you to do that on your own. If you remember earth.nullschool, we talked about that last time, earth.nullschool. And then also I mentioned star.nestis.noaa, I believe it is. If you just Google star.nestis, you can pull up those GOES 16 and 17 images that I was showing you. And then Real Earth. Real Earth is another thing that you can Google and find, and that is a place to find satellite images. So I hope that you guys have been entertained, have been educated. We wish you guys a wonderful Christmas season. Have a Merry Christmas. And to all of you guys, have a wonderful New Year. As we wrap up this Weather Wednesday, this will be the last episode. For now, I want to thank my past producer, Colleen Parra. Thank you so much for helping me to get this up off the ground. Thank you very much to Jeff Gagne for stepping in and becoming a wonderful producer and helping me develop this. Thank you all, family and friends, for you guys watching and supporting me. This has been a lot of fun, but we hope that you guys will carry on this the excitement and the curiosity for weather. So until next time, have a wonderful Christmas season and Happy New Year to 2021. Have a wonderful day, guys. Talk to you later.